this homeowners association. Many of you folks may not know this, but I've been a Pecan Grove resident for about 17 years. I have very little to say this evening because I know you've got major things to deal with in terms of your business meeting. Let me just say that when I'm done, I'll be happy to have Andy Myers come up here and answer some more questions. Let me leave you with the phone number that rings on my desk because I like to tell folks, and it's true, that I have an open door policy, which basically means I will be happy to speak with anybody, be it a citizen, a defense attorney, police officer, elected official, folks within my office, other folks with whom my office works, and yes, even the defendants. If they're interested in coming in and talking to their district attorney, as long as they're not represented, or if they're represented and with the permission of defense counsel, I can talk with them. And I'm happy to try and solve problems. Because when you're the head of the largest law enforcement agency in Fort Bend County that has to carry a law license, you ought to be a problem solver. I will tell you that as part of that special affinity that I have here for Pecan Grove, I lived for 5 years on Country Place Drive. Anybody live on Country Place Drive now? There were only 3 homes on it years ago when my wife and I lived there. Then we moved away for a short period of time trying to find that right spot, even a bit nicer than the area we had lived in, and sure enough, 3 months later, we moved back to Pecan Grove. And we lived for 12 years on the place that floods the second quickest in Pecan Grove. Does anybody happen to know where that place is? Or at least it was 11 years ago. I think Mr. Whitebreck has his hand up. Well, what is that place that floods the second quickest?
Lane.
Copperwood Lane, that is exactly right. And I remember some interesting sights occurring when it flooded. Kids tubing back and forth across our lawn, and folks out in the street canoeing and walking in water that was up to here. Fortunately, we never got any water in our home, but we lived on a great street with some great neighbors, Dwight and Nita, Denise Adams, excuse me, some great folks who make up great neighborhoods. As you know, great neighborhoods are made up of great folks who care to be involved in their community, as I would suggest everybody here feels tonight. Let me let you know a very little bit about your DA's office, because you're not here to listen to me, you're here to conduct business. When I started out working in the DA's office some 28 years ago, we had a district attorney and 4 assistants. Now we've got a district attorney and 44 assistants. There is crime in Fort Bend County. There is a tremendous increase in population in Fort Bend County since 1982. But let me say that Fort Bend County has the lowest crime rate for at least the last 8 years of any of the counties surrounding the greater Houston area, including Harris County, Galveston, Brazoria, Jefferson, Chambers, Liberty County. I think I mentioned Montgomery County, and of course Fort Bend County. We've got a great place to live, and in part it's due to the work of law enforcement in Fort Bend County. And somebody said, well, tell these folks who live in Pecan Grove how Pecan Grove stacks up. Are you crime-free in Pecan Grove? You know you're not. But there are very few communities, I would venture to say, in the United States that are crime-free. Again, fitting right in with the idea that we have a very low crime rate here in Fort Bend County. You can judge that a bit by the statistics that I'm going to reveal to you tonight. They're brought to you not by me, but by Detective David Schultz, Sergeant at the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, who worked into the late afternoon and early evening to provide me with these stats. And we're going to look at 2 crimes that are property crimes. You don't have many crimes of violence, which is a good thing here in Pecan Grove. But there are property crimes everywhere, and 2 that are most noteworthy are those involving burglary of a habitation and burglary of a motor vehicle. It seems like when I was a line prosecutor, We got more burglaries of motor vehicles than any other type of crime out of Pecan Grove. Not that you had an inordinate number, it's just that you're fortunate that it was that property crime and not a crime of violence. Pecan, I'm going to compare Pecan Grove, New Territory, Greatwood, Cinco Ranch, that's the old Cinco Ranch, Pecan Lakes, and Grand Lakes. And we'll go through burglary of motor vehicle, Pecan Grove, and this is a time period, by the way, reported from January 1 of this year through today. Pecan Grove had 27 calls for service, and not all of these are cases that could be solved or merited prosecution. Some just might have been calls to come on out and investigate, which may be a burglary of a motor vehicle. We had 27 in Pecan Grove, 49 in New Territory, 15 in Greatwood, 130 in Old Cinco Ranch. Pecan Lakes had 16, and Grand Lakes had 13. Burglary of a habitation, entering into someone's home or the garage attached to the home. In Pecan Grove, we've had 21. There were 13 in New Territory, 13 in Greatwood, 69 in Cinco Ranch, 8 in Pecan Lakes, and 18 in Grand Lakes. I'd suggest that the majority of these instances were founded and taken, solved by the sheriff's office after a great deal of work. If not the sheriff's office and some of these other subdivisions where other agencies work, because the folks in Fort Bend County, I will tell you, because I've observed it for 28 years, have a fine group of police forces and the officers behind those forces that make them up. They are public servants. They didn't get a pay raise this year. They may not get one next year. And I say they, I'm including Commissioner Myers and myself in that. But we're proud to work for Fort Bend County and the people here. But the police agencies, again, are great public servants. And you can tell a public servant because that person is interested in putting the public's needs and desires first and foremost over theirs. Again, Commissioner Myers. Any questions for Commissioner Myers? The number that rings on my desk, 281-341-4469. I'm happy to stick around this evening and answer any questions that you may have, either now or after the meeting. But if you're reluctant to call or talk about the matter in the meeting, think about giving me a call after a day or so. And if you don't have any thoughts until maybe another month or a year from now, go ahead and give me a call. I'll be happy to help you on out. I may not give you the answer that you want, but I'll give you the answer that's the truth. Thanks. Questions? Any burning questions that have to be asked and answered this evening right now, or can it wait till after the business meeting?
You may want to point out that the CPI was 0. And that elected officials haven't had a raise in 4 years. So.
Yes, we have not gotten a raise in 4 years. Some of us have had our pay docked during that time. We won't go into that this evening. The CPI was 0, yes.
Thank you, sir.